Again, continuing with the population case studies. Apologies, I haven't posted for a while. It's been a busy end to the year, but I'm looking to upload case studies more regularly. This one probably focusing on the most, I would say, frequent and common case study you're most likely to see if you look throughout the years. There's a good chance of this coming up in your paper 1 exam, and it's focusing on an international migration. And the example I'm going to introduce to you is the country of Qatar. So without further ado, what's the learning aims for this session? Well, firstly, to be able to sufficiently answer a range of questions, and this is related to an international migration case study. So you're likely to be asked 3 sets of questions, and the first set focuses on the causes, i.e. why do people migrate to Qatar? So here's some possible questions you may be asked. Explain the causes of migration of people from one named country to another. For an example you've studied, explain why migration of large numbers of people has taken place. You should refer to push and pull factors. And lastly, for a named country you've studied, explain why it has attracted large numbers of international migrants. So, just some place-specific, I suppose, reference for your own knowledge. Qatar, where is Qatar? Well, it's a tiny country. If you look on the right side of the world map, you could say it's within the Middle East, I suppose. And if you look on the left side, you have Qatar on a national scale, and if you're using place-specific references, you would focus on this city here, the capital city, Doha, which is located, of course, to the east of Qatar. So taking one example, probably the most recent, this was asked in June 2022 out of the 3. So for an example you've studied, explain why migration of large numbers of people has taken place. You should refer to push and pull factors. Within this exam, you have to also include the country of origin, so where the migrants are moving from, and of course the destination country being Qatar. So for this example, we're going to use India and Qatar, of course. So just some general data for you to help you answer this question. Qatar's total population as of last year was approximately 3 million, and a large percentage, you can see the above figure, 700,000 of these are Indians as well. So almost a third of Qatar's population here. So the question asks for push and pull factors. You should have covered this in class, but just to recap, push and pull factors that push people away from India. And you could use some of these examples here on the left hand side. And of course, you can see the pull factors. Why is Qatar an attractive place, again, to attract these migrants? And again, you could use some of these ideas on the right hand side. So generally looking at the mark scheme here, again, we want to be focusing on level 3. So the named example would be Qatar. Again, statements need to be comprehensive, but also if you just refer to a push or pull, you can't get above a level 2. To get a level 3, 7 out of 7, you need to refer to both push and pull factors, and also explain why migration has taken place, include some place-specific reference. That would be Doha, for example. Okay, and if you're unsure what we mean by this term, place-specific references, it's likely to consist of this at the bottom, including population data. And I do have some data for you I think you should be using in your answer. So we've covered the top 2, 3 million, the rough population of Qatar, 700,000 Indians living there. You could argue this is a pull factor. 29 degrees Celsius, this is the annual temperature throughout the year in Qatar. So it's quite a warm, pleasant climate, I suppose. Although in the summer we will look at look at that as a difficulty migrants face, because it does get extremely hot. Also, Qatar has a net migration of 10 per thousand population, and it has one of the highest GDP per capita in the world. That's obviously the GDP divided by the population size, to give this figure 90,000 USD. So here's a sample answer I'm confident would be a level 3. In the blue is the place-specific references, and in green is the data I've used as well. So if you want to read this, you can just pause the video. I'm going to move on now. Moving to the second set of questions. This time we're looking at the impacts. So 2 possible questions which has been asked previously, very, very similar. Describe the positive and negative impacts of large numbers of immigrants on a country you have studied, as well as for an example of an international migration you studied. They just obviously rephrased this. Describe the positive and negative impacts on the destination country. So again, not referring to causes here, and we're not explaining either why migrants have moved. We're specifically talking about the effects, the consequences, the impacts. Again, this can be positive and negative when you come across this word, unless it explicitly says the problems, for example. Okay. So here's here's the mark scheme you can use for both sample answers. Again, focusing on level 3, we want to be achieving the higher marks. Similar, comprehensive and accurate statements would describe the positive and negative impacts, including some place-specific references. Again, the same references. You would use population data, named parts, i.e. Doha, of the chosen country. And you have some of the answers. I mean, these are the themes you're likely to be referring to here. So again, here's my answer, same format as previously. Again, if you want to pause the video and make some notes, you can before I move on to the final question, which is likely to be asked. And this one, a bit of a niche question, but it focuses on what the difficulty for migrants are. So for an example of an international migration you have studied. Oh, sorry, before I mention this, this one you can, if you look at the answer, you can refer not just to India. So that also, unless it specifically says from to, you'd put from India, but for this one, you can use a range of countries. So both, I've included this in my answer, MEDCs, US, UK, more skilled workers, as well as LEDCs, or let's say NICs, I suppose India is a newly industrialized country. Okay, sorry. So moving on to the final question, for an example of international migration you have studied, describe the difficulties faced by migrants when moving to and settling in a new country. So this one explicitly does say migration from to, so again, India to Qatar. So again, you can have a look at the mark scheme. Again, here's what you're probably likely to be referring to here. And again, if you want to pause the video and see what I've written, you can do. This is a good, I suppose, Qatari specific reference here, the kafala system, which focuses on companies who essentially withhold passports, which obviously means they can exploit their workers and makes it difficult for these workers to travel out the country as well. Okay, that's just a short one. Hope it's useful. And yeah, I'll get a new one out for you soon. Thank you.